Welcome to the Voice of Retail. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc. This podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. Over the last decade, the sleep industry has undergone some serious transformation. Jeremiah Curvers, the co-founder and CEO of Polysleep, believes that the importance of sleep is the next revelation on the health front that consumers are going to prioritize. While technological advancements, such as the machinery responsible for compact mattress packing, have shaken up the otherwise maturing market, there remains a high level of competition. Direct-to-consumer distribution structures have proven very popular in mattress retail. Though neither of Polysleep's founders had much of a background in the sleep industry when they started the company, it's perhaps their outsider perspective that has allowed them to reach their audience in a crowded marketing space. In this episode of The Voice of Retail, I sit down with Jeremiah to talk about supply chains, company culture, and marketing strategies. From inside out, learn about the technology that makes Polysleep's product unique and the strategic decisions that have brought this Canadian-made, environmentally conscious brand to life. Jeremiah, welcome to the Voice of Retail podcast. How are you doing this morning?
Very good. Thank you for having me, Michael.
Well, my pleasure. Where am I finding you today? I think you're based out of Montreal. Yeah, are you in Montreal? Are you at the cottage? What are you doing today?
That is correct. I am back in the office actually with my team. It's quite exciting after 18 months. With work from home policies and all, we're back at the office. It's quite exciting. We're in Montreal, yes.
Well, I miss Montreal. This is probably the longest in my life I have not been in Montreal. So keep it warm for me, so to speak. Look forward to going back to Montreal real soon. Let me follow that thread for a little bit. Tell me about your perspectives around work from home and work in the office. Often when I talk to retail leaders and brands, they talk about a hybrid in going forward, the advantage of being able to tap into a broader group of staff, but at the same time, they miss that kind of being together. Where do you, has your perspective around that changed because of the pandemic? Like, where were you before the pandemic in terms of work from home and finding people? And has that changed because of what we've been through for the past 18 months? Give me your perspective on that.
I think it definitely shook the industry, the retail industry, quite a lot. My perspective on it didn't really change. To be honest, I think there's a lot of pros, there's a lot of cons. To give you some pros, obviously, you are able to attract a larger pool of talent. Right. Let's say if I want someone in 3D animation, and unfortunately in Montreal it's a struggle, I could always go to Vancouver, Toronto. So that opens the door to a lot of other opportunity. Right. On the contrary, for a brand like mine, the thing I realize is that teamwork and creativity often sparks when people are all together in a room. And during the pandemic, I think from a production standpoint, it was probably more efficient to have people working from home. Right. But I saw a decrease in creativity. And that spark that often is necessary for a startup to continue to pursue and stay ahead of the pack. Yeah. Also, I think a hybrid model is probably great, but there's going to be some challenges regarding organization who go through transformation and work really hard to avoid silos. Because you're home, you're in your day-to-day, you save in traffic, but you pretty much focus on what you have to do and then call it a day, right? So. These, I think, are the biggest challenge organization that will go purely remote will face. So I think hybrid is a great way to compensate. And every company is different. I think as a brand we're still a young brand. It's been 5 years we've been in the market. Right. My team is working really, really hard to set in stone these value, this mission that we have in the market. So having them next to me in the office allow us to really push forward.
Yeah, what you're talking about is culture, right? I mean, it's as you said, very productive, but sometimes it feels like you lose a bit on the particularly as you said, for a startup, you're 5 years. We're going to talk lots about that. We've jumped right in, but it is part of that creation of the culture. And I don't know. It's interesting because I've talked to retail leaders who said it doesn't always need to all happen in the office. So how do we? And no, there's no answer to it. How do we get both? Right? How do we get both? A great culture. How do we get innovation? How do we get productivity? Right, the trifecta of objectives for any of the business. Listen, we've jumped right in. Why don't we take a couple of steps back? Tell us about yourself, your background, and what you do at Polysleep.
Sure, absolutely. So Jeremiah, creative guy, studied in graphic design and 3D animation. When I'm actually born in France, my parents are from Belgium, so I've never really had the opportunity to stay longer than before Quebec, before Canada, more than 5 to 10 years in the same city or region. And yeah, very creative person. After I studied 3D animation and graphic design, I had the opportunity to work with SMBs in sales and marketing for multiple companies. And for, I would say, a good 10 years, I was highly involved in digital transformation, as well as monetization for websites or even ad networks. So I really had the opportunity to work on the agency side, but building tools to help websites and retailer monetize their data, monetize their audience. And the one element I didn't have the opportunity to really tap into was e-commerce. I was very, very interested by e-commerce. Unfortunately, except for maybe I would consider 10 or 20 relevant company in Montreal or even in Quebec that could potentially have offered me an opportunity to join them. There was nothing there. And basically, a friend of mine who is in the foam industry told me about these new machinery that were allowing people and companies to really reduce the footprint of a mattress and therefore use shipping techniques that are a lot more affordable and allow to scale at a much faster pace. So obviously, you heard about some of our competitors in America that
Sure.
grew quite fast. And I decided to try it with almost little to no experience in the bedding or mattress industry. The one thing that really pushed me to go there was the fact that I got bedridden after a double herniated disc when we were starting looking at the project. So I realized how important sleep was.
Wow.
And that became our mantra. The whole team is really working very hard to help Canadian have the best sleeping solution, because that improve your physical, your mental, and your social well-being as a whole. So I think after people start to realize now nutrition is quite important, I think sleep is the next revelation where people will continue working and investing in.
Well, let's talk about Polysleep. So tell me, you've already, it is a mattress in a box, but that's kind of a very blunt, basic description. Tell us all about the company. Tell us about the product. What's different about it? Where you fit? I mean, there is competitors in that category, subset category of mattresses. It's a very active category. How have you found your way? Tell us all about the company.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very competitive landscape because the barrier of entry is extremely low. Anybody could see a foam producer and get covers in China and start selling mattresses, right? Our approach is quite different. We really wanted to go in the market with a Canadian-made product. So 95% of our producers and our footprint is really Canadian for multiple reasons. One, encourage local economy, but also that allows us to have our R&D as close as the final product as possible. So quality is a big thing. Our approach is really based on physiognomy and the needs of someone rather than pure preferences, where there's this gimmick in the industry where the more choices you have, the better you're going to sleep. And to a certain extent, a lot of mattress companies that are established don't even think about what is the physiological needs of a person. What is the right balance between soft and too hard? So that really is our approach. And we use a lot of technology. We really focus on innovation. To give you one of many examples, we partnered with a company called Nanobionic. They use a technology, it's a nanotechnology that allows your heat being taken, because it's expelled by your body as infrared, to be taken and redistributed in a way that accelerate and help blood flow. So that technology is used by a sportswear company or even McLaren in their Senna car. So very high-end technology, but proven to really improve the quality of sleep. And that is our obsession. We use antimicrobial foam that is medical-gradely certified. So really, by innovating with foam technology, we drive the market forward. And we've seen in the last 5 years a lot of players adapting to that, which is something great. It's not only about bringing the best possible product, but also driving the industry forwards. That motivates us.
Right. And I guess what attracted to you, as you said, the e-commerce piece, the environment piece, the shipping and the packaging piece. Talk about your overall look at mattresses in terms of where you fit, and what are the trends for your type of product overall? Is it kind of, I wouldn't say it came out of nowhere. The mattress category you're in has evolved over the past, as you said, 5 years. But mattress trends come and go, right? Like I remember growing up on a waterbed. Who's the last person who said? Who's the last person who thought about waterbeds? Where do you see the trajectory of the category? Do you consider it big growth? Is it leveling out? How are you see it?
Historically speaking, due to the sheer fact that global population grows quite fast, it is a category that, even though it attained a certain level of maturity, have been through certain transformation due to e-commerce, mainly direct-to-consumer products being more and more popular. There's been a whole shift between traditional retailers owning that category and now brands that sells directly to consumer, just like Polysleep is doing, right? I think one of the critical elements that will make or break certain businesses is their capacity to understand what matters for the customer. And right now, we know it's a fact, pollution and the carbon footprint any and every business emits is quite important. So when I think about the fact that we partner every year with One Tree Planted to offset our carbon footprint, or just the fact that we decided to go with Shopify because more and more people who use the app shop, they don't even know that, but shop always offset their carbon footprint when you use their app. Or the fact that we have a 110 program. So for every 10 mattress sold, we either donate through returns because we have a trial policy, or charity. We partner with the city of Toronto with during the pandemic and gave a lot of mattresses to people in needs.
It's wonderful. Wonderful.
And I think this is critical for businesses to understand that it's not only about the product, but it's about delighting customer and making sure they matter and they feel like what they decided and which company did they decided to buy the good from improve their overall condition.
Let's talk about just the last thing on the company, how you go to market. So obviously e-commerce, buy direct. Is there a wholesale strategy as well, or talk about that a little bit?
At the moment, the core of our business is really focused towards direct to consumer, driven by our website. I would say up until this year, that was about 95% of our revenue stream. In the last 12 months, especially due to the pandemic, we really focused our efforts on marketplaces as well. So now our products are also available on Amazon, Walmart, eBay. We're in discussion with Costco. Because ultimately, we want to be there where customers want to be able to interact with our product. And that brings us to something we've had in mind for quite a long time, but we're really putting efforts towards that, is a very strong wholesale and affiliation program. And we go over and above traditional retail, where we not only partner with physical stores to allow them to make a margin when they purchase, let's say, a typical FOB price and they resell to consumer, but also for smaller businesses who don't necessarily have the space to have a stock. We do have an affiliate partnership specialized for physical stores and whoever have physical footprint. The way it works is we basically allow them to become a partner, and we give them samples that they can showcase in their store. And often that allows us to bring people who would like to interact with the product physically to a store that is quite different from a big box traditional retailer store.
Right. More specialty, yeah.
Exactly, and if they like the product, these stores have a rebate or a coupon and ways to measure who converted, and that gives them an affiliate commission without the hassle of managing, billing, returns, warranty, no stocks. So it's really a win-win situation where instead of putting a little piece of foam when they have a bed frame, they have actually a nice mattress that they can show to their client. And at the same time, we've passed 1.5 million yearly active user in Canada on our website. And
Fantastic.
A lot of them want to interact with the product. So that allows us also to stimulate the local economy, bringing them to places where they might not have been.
When you reflect on the past 18 months, we talked about how you were structuring and doing things different during the pandemic. What jumped out at you in terms of what you take away from the COVID era for the business? So, for example, I've talked to many retail leaders like yourself, and they say, you know what, we need to be more agile. We were very well planned out, but we just realized we just can't predict what comes next. Now, you're more of a startup, a younger organization, though that's probably your DNA to begin with. But is there any lessons you took away from the pandemic you think that will make the company better or different, or do things different as you look forward?
Yeah. The most important realization was the fact that globalization really have an impact on the supply chain. Yes, we do produce 100% of our goods in Canada, but let's say certain chemical ingredients do come from the United States or Germany or China. And it was a challenge, not to say a struggle, to make sure we have enough raw materials to produce the foam we use in our mattress. The foam is produced in Montreal, but some chemical ingredient or the fabric, if we use organic cotton, unfortunately, as you're aware, there's not a lot of fields where cotton grows in Canada, right? So that was definitely something that was challenging. And as much as I like to stay lean, because there's costs associated with that, to maybe increase our stock a little bit would be something I'll consider in the future. There's obviously a limit, but that would be the one thing I would make. I would bring a slight changes in the way we operated. That's
super interesting. I've talked to lots of retailers who said they've never had more inventory, both because they're kind of betting on a big resurgence of the economy, but also for exactly what you said, like the product could be made here, but the cap is made in China, or the packaging is made in Tennessee or something like it. There's so many components that kind of come together that maybe the supply chain's too tight, maybe it was too inflexible. So it's interesting to hear you echo the same thing. So another question from a different perspective: if you had a do-over for what went on in the past 18 months, is there anything you would have done, knowing what you now know, anything you would have done differently, or are you happy with what you were able to accomplish and how you went to market? It's not really a question to reflect exactly on anything other than, hey, now that I know something, I might have done it a little bit different, and maybe I'm going to do that different moving forward, other than the supply chain piece. Anything jump out at you?
To be entirely honest, and I'm knocking on wood right now, we've had tremendous growth during the last 18 months due to the fact that we are a direct-to-consumer brand, and we were really well equipped to support that need. The one thing I realize, and it's more a lesson for what's coming up next, because as we move back towards, I would call it normality, I think people will be excited to go in stores. I think people will be excited to interact with other human beings. And I'm going to double down on growing my physical footprint, because as much as it went one way during the pandemic, because we had no other choice but to buy products and goods and services online, I think people will enjoy going out and discovering things more and more in the next couple of years. And I want to be present. I want to be there.
Interesting. Let's talk about some of the strategies and tactics around marketing. So I'm interested in your thoughts around, there's the conventional kind of what is now known conventional, search marketing. But are you exploring things like, YouTube, giving products to YouTubers? There's lots of people watching lots of YouTube. I know I certainly do. I consume more on YouTube than I do on television by a wide margin. I see some user-generated content on your site. So what's your perspective on what's working in terms of generating? Because you've got an advantage in terms of your direct response, so to speak, a world that I'm very familiar with. If it doesn't work, you know it quick because the sales don't happen. Tell me about what's working for you and what you like.
I would say in terms of return on investment and return on ad spend, podcasts, especially video casts, when we're able to really adapt the way we sponsor the host towards the audience, have amazing performance. And I mean, over 20-1 returns.
Wow.
Which is extremely hard to attain. And we've seen that consistently over the past 2 years. So this is something we're going to continue to grow. It takes time. It takes time because you need to understand the audience of the host. And often what happens with new partners, for the first 2-3 podcasts, it's either a hit or miss. The message we ask them to deliver is not delivered properly, and therefore there's miscommunication. And you're just another brand sponsoring a video. But when you do it right, results are amazing, and we see them right away.
So just to unpack that for the listeners, for the people, that's where you would find people who have a video podcast or podcast, and they do product reviews in your category. Is that the kind of people you're looking for? Tell me about that.
So endemic podcasts are definitely very strong. In our case, websites that are specialized in reviewing and comparing products works really well. On the other hand, I'm going to give you a complete opposite example. Mike Ward, who's a comic, quite popular in the Quebec region, we've been sponsoring his podcast for quite a long time now, and it's a comic. It's just like, it has nothing to do with mattresses, but the way we found ways altogether to pass the message in a way that resonates with his audience, and we see similar results. It's performing extremely well.
So interesting. So basically, he would come on, do his creative work, and then he said, "By the way, this is sponsored by Polysleep, and I have a Polysleep, and it's great." That kind of, I'm simplifying vastly.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
that, right? Yeah.
So for moving day, for example, he was pushing on the fact that moving your old mattress is a pain, et cetera. So he got a very dark humor, and he adapted the message to the audience. And that connects extremely well. Ultimately, I think group communities, podcasts, YouTube, like you mentioned, or TikTok, are amazing platform because they facilitate 2.0 interaction, where the user feel more connected to the host.
It's true because I guess you back that up with an offer code of some sort. That's your tracking mechanism, right? Put in right on. Well, let's talk about speaking of consumers. You've partnered now with a coalition loyalty program. You're an Air Miles partner. Why did you do that? How did that fit into your strategy, and how are you using the data? And give me some perspectives around why you thought that would be the next level for you in terms of marketing.
Yeah, Air Miles is a very interesting partnership. They approached us as obviously they see direct-to-consumer brands and e-commerce, generally speaking, becoming more and more relevant in the market, right? It's a great way for us to try some, especially offline tactics and email strategy as well, because they got such a huge database. Yeah. And at the same time, as we continue progressing with our analytics platform, which is now a multi-touch point attribution platform, we've realized that you have to be very, very careful with loyalty, as it can quickly become something that cannibalizes other sales channel. Yeah. And Air Miles, what I like about it is our capacity for maybe an audience that is not extremely tech savvy to reach them and introduce them to our brand. On the contrary, though, we have to be very careful so that we don't have just anybody and everybody who would already have purchased our product to add Air Miles, because obviously there's costs associated with that.
That's the art and science, right? Is how do you make sure you're incrementing the business versus just giving points to somebody who you've already basically paid through your marketing to get, right? That's the art and science of tapping into coalition loyalty programs, right? Finding that subset of people who just aren't hearing your message today.
Yeah. And I think Air Miles is, of course, in Canada, by far the largest program. They're really, really working hard to adjust their offering towards direct-to-consumer brands. And they're very reactive. So we love this partnership.
Oh, fantastic. Well, let's continue that thread of discussion. You've got some interesting wholesale kind of strategies. We've talked a bit about them, but you seem to be targeting Airbnbs and hotels. Talk about that and how that's evolved. That's a really interesting component of a marketing strategy.
So this is an idea that came actually talking with furniture stores that are our partners and brainstorming with other people. When we come to that realization, you probably heard about hotel boutique, where these hotels are literally shops where you can buy whatever you saw or interested you during your vacation days.
Yeah.
And going back to consumers, our goal is really to delight our consumer and facilitate the process at every steps. So while limit ourselves to furniture store or mattress stores or direct to consumer, our website, if someone goes to a hotel or rent an Airbnb, let's say, you decide to come to Montreal and you rent a nice Airbnb. You love your experience and you're extremely satisfied with your night's sleep.
You had a great night's sleep and you're like, why did I have such a great night's sleep? Because I'm on vacation? Yes, but, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So how can we tap into this? And this is where I think a solid affiliation program with these hosts, and this is something we're going to continue promoting this year, to allow them to have a certain earning when they help us close the sale, but also to showcase them. So we've partnered with our agency to build a custom React store locator on our website. And people are able to filter out store in real time. We use the Airbnb API as well as Google partners. So if you go on vacation, you want to try a mattress, you might want to reserve at a hotel where we have our product.
So interesting.
So that becomes an opportunity for them also to, as we grow our footprint and as more and more people consider our brand, instead of just sending them to a store where they can try it for a couple of minutes, they might as well book their next vacation in a 4 or 5-star hotel that have our products and test it out properly.
Well, it reminds me a lot around the strategies around rent-a-cars, right? That you get seeded with cars that you actually get to try and do the best of both worlds, right? You drive it around, but also you get to try and, do I really like this car in the real world? That's very clever, Jeremiah. It's I haven't heard of such a thing, and thank you for sharing it. Listen, where can people go to learn more about Polysleep and discover more about the product and tell me where they should follow? Instagram?
So obviously we're on every social media platform. I would say the best way to gather and see additional information about us is our website, polysleep.ca. I'm also going to be present at DX3 in November, and probably the one in Canada as well. And LinkedIn is probably the best way if you have additional question or would like to see what's happening behind the scene and what's coming up next for Polysleep from a business standpoint. We're going to have a couple of nice, exciting announcements in a couple of months.
Well, that's exciting. And as you and I were saying off mic, you and I we met at DX3 in Toronto, which was the last conference on the last day pre-pandemic. So our conversation today is long overdue. It's been such a treat hearing all about your product, and thank you for sharing. And I wish you much continued success. And I hope to see you soon in person at an event near us. So until then, stay safe and have a great summer. And thanks so much for being on the Voice of Retail podcast.
Thank you very much, Michael. Have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of The Voice of Retail. Be sure and follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy podcasts so you don't miss out on the latest episodes, industry news, and insights. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a rating review, as it really helps us grow so that we continue to get amazing guests onto the show. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, president of Emmy LeBlanc Company, Inc., and if you're looking for more content or want to chat, follow me on LinkedIn or visit my website at emmyleblanc.co. Until next time, stay safe, have a great week.